Howdy. Welcome to the Texas A&M University College of Veterinary Medicine and Biomedical Sciences Peer Programs STEM Education Series. Today, histology professor Dr. Larry Johnson will present Science and You. What is a scientist? What kind of jobs does a scientist do? And what skills are required for them to reach their goals? Dr. Johnson will answer all of these questions and more in today's program. Welcome, Dr. Johnson.
Thank you, Tori. Today we're going to talk about science and you. I am a professor at Texas A&M University. I teach histology, as Tori mentioned. I'm a research scientist. I've conducted research for several years, got 110 publications, written a book. But today we're going to talk about trying to get you interested in science. When I was a kid, I really admired like a clothespin, and I wanted to invent something like that. And that's what scientists do. They kind of invent things whenever they design the experiments that they're doing. So today we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what science is, what's the definition of science, what are some of the methods, and what are some of the fields of study of science. And then also we want to talk about careers, different careers that you could have as a scientist. And then we'll talk about scientist travel. Guess whose scientist that is that traveled all around the world? We'll talk about that at the end. So what is science? Science is from the Latin word scientia. That means know, knowledge, or to know. It's the effort to discover, to increase the human understanding of the physical world around us. It's a human thing. Monkeys don't care about science, but humans do. They want to know how the world works and how to be able to manipulate it for the health and well-being of animals, people, the planet. It's what they want. So science is scientia, means knowledge, and you get that knowledge through discovery, and it's a human thing. So through control methods, scientists use observable physical evidence of natural phenomena. So they look for evidence. It's evidence-based for them to be able to come up to their predictions that they're trying to do. And so they're trying to analyze how things work. So they use control methods. You might have heard about experiments and having controls in the experiments. Observable evidence, and how things work is what they try to do. So what are some of the methods of science? Science methods include experimentation. So that assimilates the natural situation, and they have conduct experiments. So they also conduct experiments on animals because animals are a lot like humans, and so they're able to gain information about goods and services and procedures that could be used on humans. So experiments and research is what scientists do, and we're going to do a little research today on ourselves. Okay, how has the word science been used in the past? Well, I mentioned scientia mean knowledge. Also, other words, you know what a synonym is? Synonym having the same meaning. Cut, separate, discern. He cuts off. I split. All these are synonyms for the word science. These are action words. These are what scientists do. And here we can see a dog that his head has been cut open. We call him Slice, that we can see. And we can see his brain. And so we use this with our veterinary students. They learn what's inside of a dog so they don't have to cut your dog in half whenever you take your dog to the veterinary clinic. So this is one way that scientists do. They split, they look inside. And here's another dog that we can see. And here we can see the different parts of the dog cut this way. And so you can see the heart, you can see the lungs, and you can see the liver on this particular dog. So cut, separate, split, all those are action words. Whoa, someone did this to humans too. Is this two humans or one human? Of course, the human was dead as well as the animals were dead whenever they cut them open like that. This is two humans. And what scientists do, they make some observation of a few. Like I can look at those and see both of those humans have a brain in their head. And then they make inferences about many. So based on observation of these two humans, and both of them have brains in their head, I conclude that everybody listening to my voice today has a brain in their head. I don't have to cut you open. That's what scientists do, is they make inferences about many from observations of a few. And so sometimes the word philosophy has equaled science. In fact, in some languages, science and philosophy are synonyms of one another. What does PhD behind a scientist mean? It means the doctor of philosophy. And philosophy means the love of knowledge. In other words, it's the doctor of the love of knowledge, how things work. We're trying to figure out how things work so we can manipulate the system.
Dr. Johnson, you have a PhD, and the students at NTO would like to know, what is histology? What is that love of knowledge of histology that you have?
Okay, I teach histology, which is like microscopic anatomy. And so it tells you about the different cells that are inside, like say the liver or the stomach, and then the different organelles that are inside those cells and how that contributes to the overall function of that organ. So it's microscopic anatomy, not gross specimens like these are. It's where you go inside and look inside the eye, look at the cells of the eye, and look at the retina and different things is what histology is. So in the whole course of things, they have gross anatomy, and the students also have histology, which tells you what's inside of cells. And so scientists love test tubes. I mean, who would love a bunch of test tubes besides a scientist? Science keeps the scientists riveted to their benches, and they go in jungles. And you know there's snakes there. The scientists may be after the snake, looking for the snake. And so also scientists like these complicated equations. You might know that M equals MC squared from Einstein. So these are different things that keep scientists riveted to their benches and trying to figure out how the worlds work. And so the methods of science seek to explain natural things in a reproducible way. The word reproducible is very important, because if you discover something, even a cure from cancer, no one would believe it unless they could test that in their own laboratory. That's one thing about scientists, is that they're always questioning. They don't believe it. They want to see more evidence of it, and people have to do it in their own laboratory. So what are some of the words they use? Method, they use, in their methods, they use a model. A model would be, people may make a model city before they build a city, or maybe a model aircraft carrier before they make it. That's what scientists do. They study the model and then make inferences about other things. A hypothesis. Now you probably know a hypothesis is an educated guess. And I want to emphasize the word educated here, because the educated guess means it's a likely thing. It's not just a random thing. For example, if your car cannot crank, it's either gas problem, a spark problem, or oxygen problem. That's it. And so if you said, I hypothesize that my car won't crank because the window won't go down, that is not a hypothesis, because the window going down has nothing to do with your car cranking. So the educated part of the educated guess, in other words, it's a likely thing to happen. It may not happen, but it's a likely thing. That's what a hypothesis is. And then experimental design, and as I mentioned to you, I wanted to make a clothespin, something like a clothespin, invent something, and that's what scientists do. They invent their experiments. You have peer review, where people review what you're doing to make sure that they can reproduce the information. And also we have scientific ethics, where you have to follow certain procedures, because by following those procedures, you end up with a believable product that you have. So in the methods, the scientific method, they have to use a reproducible way, and from that, they make predictions about things. The hypothesis, as we mentioned before, is an educated guess, and it's a likely thing to occur. Now, the physical law is things, and I'll show you one. Here we see Boyle's law. Boyle's law shows you that it has to do with pressure and volume, and they're inversely related. So as a diaphragm, and here's a diaphragm here, as a diaphragm goes down, it causes an increased volume inside there, and that reduces the pressure and causes a vacuum, and the glove expands. I don't know if you can see the glove expanding in here. Let me see if I can see it right there. You can see the glove is expanding when I pull the diaphragm down here. Boyle's law has to do with pressure and volume. It's in every breath you take. If you don't like physics, then just hold your breath till you do. No, don't hold your breath. I'm just kidding there. But here we see the diaphragm, and if we look at this one, this is our dog, another dog. These are the ribs, and there's muscles in between the ribs, and that's like the bell jar as far as it's making a cavity. On this side, we can see the lungs would be in this space, and here is the heart. But here is a diaphragm. The diaphragm is the same as what we saw here. So the diaphragm is a thin membrane over an opening. That's what a diaphragm is, whether it's in this jar or whether it's in this dog that we have. So Boyle's law has to do with pressure and volume, and the diaphragm is what facilitates changing the volume, which changes the pressure and causes a vacuum to occur for you to breathe in. And then we have another dog that we see, and we call him Shorty a little bit. And here we can see Shorty, and you can see his diaphragms right there. That's the diaphragm that lets, that when it pulls down, it causes a vacuum, and so you're able to breathe in. Here's his stomach, liver, heart, brain, different parts of the dog. Again, the diaphragm is very similar to what we saw with a bell jar. Here we see a pig's nose. Everybody's seen a pig's nose before. You can feel his whiskers, but I want you to see the butterfly inside there. The butterfly-shaped structure is where the air goes. So the air goes around the butterfly, and whenever it does, it makes it spin. And the dust particles, which is heavier, gets thrown against the side by centrifugal force, and it gets caught in the mucus, and that's how the respiratory system cleans the air before it gets to your lungs. So these are turbinates that we see there, kind of a butterfly. Who thinks you have a butterfly too? You do. If you cut off your nose, don't do it. But if you cut off your nose, you can see it. These are from the body whorls specimens that you can see the butterfly-shaped structure on this human, a similar type thing where the air spins around the butterfly, and in doing so, it makes the dust particles get thrown against the mucus, and the mucus traps it and able to get rid of the dust particles before it gets down into the lungs.
Dr. Johnson, the students would like to know where you get your models, your specimens from. Where do those come from?
Okay, this one human came from body whorls. So they did that. I just took a picture there from body whorls. The animals that we have people donate their animals that are dead. We have too many animals, and so we're able to sacrifice a few animals that are not wanted or can't be adopted or whatever, and so we used a few animals for this, and they were able to have a lot of students learn from these, and in doing so, they help a lot of other animals. So it is true that the one animal dies, but it's also true that many animals are helped because of the knowledge learned from those animals.
Can you tell us how they're preserved, how you're able to let lots and lots of students use them?
Okay, these are plastinated, so even though it's a real specimen, it's been, you take the liquid, the water, and the fat out with chemicals, and then you replace it with a plastic, a liquid plastic, and then that plastinates these specimens that we have. So we had these specimens for ever since I've been here, which I came in 1988. And so we've used these specimens over and over again for a lot of vet students to learn about what's inside the dog. As you see there on the left-hand side, you can see the turbinates, the butterfly-shaped structure. And then in the middle, you can see a view of this with the histology image. That's what you would see with histology if you looked at that. And the light space around there is where the air goes. See here, air goes in these spaces, both in our pig and those in us, and that is what is able to clean the air because it gets caught in the mucus. The centrifugal force of the air spinning around sends the dust to the outside. You know, if a car has an accident on the curve, do they fall to the outside of the curve or do they fall to the inside? Well, they fall to the outside because the centrifugal force sends them out. And the same thing, centrifugal force sends the dust particles to the mucus. And so also right in your turbinates are these things we call swell bodies. These are blood vessels. You can see the lighter spaces there. And you might have seen these things that football players, soccer players have over their nose. They call breathe right. I call it breathe wrong because you're not supposed to breathe with both nostrils at one time is what we have. So let's do a little experiment right now where you and I are the guinea pigs. So let's do a little experiment, and I will make a hypothesis. I will hypothesize that you're breathing out of one nostril more than the other. So let's check it out. If you close one nostril and suck in, and then close the other nostril and suck in, you'll discover you're breathing out of one side more than the other. How many people breathing out of mostly one side? Most everybody is, unless you're changing. In 30 minutes, it'll be switched. If you ever had a cold before and couldn't breathe through your nose, had to breathe through your mouth, you know how dry your mouth gets. The same thing happens to your nose. So these swell bodies closes the airflow down to that side so it can rehumidify, add moisture back to it because the moisture is evaporated during the breathing process, and it switches back and forth every 30 minutes. When a football player has it, he holds his nose above the swell bodies. It's okay for a football game, but it's not okay for all the time. So what are some of the fields of science? Two major fields. We got the natural science that we'll be talking about, which has to do with biology. Also the social sciences, behavior, human behavior is what we're speaking of. And these are empirical sciences in that you can test things. You can do experimentation with these things. You can find evidence for the different things. Natural and social science also includes engineering. So engineering is science and also health science. So veterinary medicine and medicine are science too. So engineering and health fields are in the science. Math is a little different things. Some people call that another field of science. So we have, but the ones we're talking about today is natural science and social science, where those are experimental related that you can do. You can do experiments with math too. There's a lot of modeling, and of course you use math with science to be able to make predictions from the observations that you have. That's why we have statistics. You make some observations, and based on the difference between the treatment and control, that would predict with statistics how likely that observation you made was correct. So what do you want to do? Maybe you want to be a scientist. Maybe you want to be in math. And so which one of these fields would study these dolphins? Social science or natural science? Natural science, right? Social science has to do with studying humans. And so what are some of the careers that we have, and how many can you name? Whoa, there's lots of careers there. And this is just the first part of the alphabet. So there's lots of things that you could do. Astronomy, the study of celestial bodies, including the Earth, right? In fact, which one is the Earth? The blue one's on the bottom? I don't think so. There's the Earth, the blue one up there at the top. Okay? And then, of course, we observe those with a telescope. Whoa, what are something that we just looked at? The eclipse of the sun, as we can see. It really eclipsed the Earth from us seeing the sun, didn't it? Now, if you didn't see that a while back, wait to 2024. How old will you be then? It's going to happen again, and this time it's going to come across Texas as well. So these are related things that maybe you're interested in working with. Geology and volcanology. Who likes volcanoes? Lots of people do. How did we get Hawaii? Because of the volcanoes is what we did. What's the relationship between geology and astronomy? Astronomy, things outside. Actually, the Earth is outside with it. It's in the universe, right? You ever seen shooting stars? Falling stars? Do they ever hit the Earth? Yeah, they do. And maybe that's how we got water on this Earth, because a lot of them have water, ice inside them. And here we see some rocks. These are some rocks that you can see. These are petrified wood. It's about 50 million years old, this wood. And this is a rock. This is a red rock, as you see. And this rock is red because of iron. Iron is what makes your blood red, too. But this is petrified wood, so it looks like a piece of wood. And the state rock of Texas is a petrified palm tree, as you can see up there. So maybe you're interested in rocks, because rocks tell you a lot about your past, the past that we were unable to experience yourself. What about engineering? I told you it was science. So how many engineering fields do you know? Maybe mechanical. They make motor vehicles or things. Maybe electrical. Maybe civil, make bridges and build things and dams. Maybe environmental, worried about pollution, recycling waste, hurricanes that they may be interested in. Industrial, make products. Why do you think a Coca-Cola can is kind of crumpled? So if it expands in the car or something, it won't pop. It just unfolds. That was industrial engineering that made that. Chemistry, petroleum products. We all use them, right? This plastic right here was made from a petroleum product. Okay, here's your test. Who made this? Which one of these engineering group made that? Okay. Civil, they make things, right? Bridges and things, and they made that pyramid. How about made this? Who made the shuttle going up? Okay, maybe mechanical. Of course, there's electrical and other things in there as well. Who would ever want to use that? Chemical. They grind up things, grind up leaves and look at what's inside, or grind up parts of maybe parts of a rock, see what's inside. Maybe a moon rock, right? Agriculture. Agriculture production of products for us to consume. It could be plants. They're living too, right? Could be animals. Could be. So things that we consume by the public is what agricultural does. That's what A for A and M stands for, right? How is engineering related to agriculture? You think there's any engineering in that tractor up there? You think there's any selection in that bull right there? And in fact, of that product, the crop that you see there, the green, there's probably selection in that one that may be like, so we have soybeans and cotton that's Roundup ready. In other words, it's resistant to Roundup. So you can use Roundup to kill the weeds, which is not resistant, and it doesn't kill these other plants. Horticulture. If I didn't love animals so much, I'd love horticulture. It's the art and science of cultivating plants. Yes, what is an example of genetic engineering in horticulture? Who have genetics that done in horticulture? How about edible vaccine? Can you imagine eating a banana and get your medicine? No more shots? Wouldn't that be great? So these are opportunities for you to do something whenever you become, choose your career and maybe want to be a scientist. Maybe ecology, maybe you want to be an environmentalist. Maybe you want to do this. Entomology is the study of insects. See that mosquito right there? See that red stuff? Mosquitoes don't have blood. They got that from some animal or person is what they have. So entomology, 6 legs on those insects, right? That's different from arachnology, which has to do with 8 legs, right? 8 legs. Scorpion, here we see a scorpion here, or a spider would be another example of that. That's different from the insects. They have a different number of legs. Scorpion is actually older than a shark, and you can see how primitive he looks there. But if we look at bugs, insects, like a mosquito, for example, what are some of the diseases that are spread by insects? And so entomologists have to worry about that and how that impacts the world. So half of all the people who've ever lived on this earth, half, have either had malaria or died from malaria. That is a lot of people, and it was transmitted by those insects. So insects influence human health, is what we want to say. So another opportunity for you to work in there to maximize the health and well-being of individuals. How about the medical field? Could be a human physician, maybe pharmacology, maybe public health. They have eradicated smallpox from the wide world. Now, there is some smallpox that's in the military for the United States and also Russia, but it's not out among the people.
Dr. Johnson, while we're talking about the medical field and public health, we have some students from FOSSUM who would like to know, were any of the specimens you used useful in diagnosing or treating or curing diseases? Do they ever use those specimens for things like that?
Well, of course, whenever you start to train the students, you start out with what's normal. And so these dogs that we have here, because I'm in anatomy, these are normal. And so you learn about disease states as it relates to normal. So you need to know what normal is before you can know. If you didn't know what a car looked like, if you saw a wrecked car, you wouldn't know it was wrecked. If you didn't know what the car normal shape would have been. Now, I'm in anatomy, but we also have pathology. And of course, they get specimens that relate to disease states. And sometimes one of the things that veterinarians do is they go to a part of the world where that disease is prevalent. And so they work on trying to treat that, and it could be the animals that they have there, it could be the people that they're working on. But so yes, we do study diseases whenever we have these specimens. Okay, a veterinarian is another field. So we have different fields that could be, and smallpox, get rid of that in the world is what they did. Biosecurity, you know about this? Biosecurity, one thing that we have a whole group of biosecurity people that are concerned about terrorists coming in and bringing in things. And it's not only the the people, it's also animals as well. And here you can see in England, where they had hoof and mouth disease, they had 2,000 farms, 8 million animals had to be destroyed, $15 billion. So the terrorists could come in through a water source, or it could come in through food that we have. And so biosecurity is a field that you could work in as well. So animals research, we have to use animals. Animals are like humans in many ways. And these are some diseases that they work with: anthrax in sheep, cholera in various species, rabies in various species, insulin and diabetes in dogs. And so these mostly were discovered in the animals, and then that was applied to humans. Like for a hip replacement, you probably know somebody in your family or someone in your community that had a hip replacement. The first hip replacement was in a German Shepherd dog that was in the military, and they needed to return that dog to service. And so the medical doctors took that dog in there and gave him another hip. And from that, we have hip replacement on humans. So you have to use animals in research to be able to explore, to figure out what's the best way of doing things. So in veterinary medicine, they prevent, diagnose, and treat. Those are the three things that veterinarians do. They work with livestock, they work with protecting humans against diseases, and they do research to make health better for humans and animals alike. So they do three basic things: prevent, and that's what they want to do most. If you've ever been into a veterinary clinic, you know there's literature all around. This is information. Why do they vaccinate? To prevent is what they're trying to do. So a lot of what they do is prevent, but they can also diagnose and treat, but they rather prevent if they could. That's the reason they're always telling you about things to take care of your dog, go routine checkups for yourself as well as your pets. Here we can see one of the clinicians with a student there working on teeth, getting teeth cleaned in a dog, which is a recommended thing. And so they work with health, they work with protecting humans, and so any business that has food has to have veterinarians in there to help ensure that the quality of the food is good. Even Walmart or any one of those food places would have to have some veterinarians associated with them. Clinical research to figure out how things work is what they're trying to do. Here's a horse in surgery. Can you see the horse inside there? He's upside down, isn't he? So maybe that colic surgery or some type of surgery that they're doing to try to repair the dog. As I mentioned, they try to prevent, but they can't prevent. They're diagnosed, and that right now they're getting ready to treat. Maybe you like exotic animals. You can reach new heights with a giraffe. Of course, you know this lady is standing on some kind of platform to be able to feed that giraffe. So medical research, they produce vaccines, treatment of cures are what they do. They want to test new vaccines, test out new treatments is what they're trying to do. And this is the first experiment associated with vaccination. That is Edward Jenner in 1796. He noted, and this is what we want you to do, is to make observations, from your observations, make a prediction or what you might be able to do. And that's what scientists do, trying to think what would cause the situation that you see. So you first of all have to understand what the situation was. In that case, they discovered that milkmaids, the lady who milked the cows, were continuously exposed to cowpox, because cowpox is very similar to smallpox. And they did not get smallpox. So Jenner reasoned that by being exposed to cowpox, you wouldn't get smallpox. And so he did an experiment where he injected a cowpox into a little boy and then gave the boy a smallpox and made the boy sick, but he didn't get smallpox. And your vaccination, all of you who've been vaccinated, all relates back to this experiment way back when. And this is what we want you to do, come up with a new idea that could help the health of all the people. So the government agencies had another opportunity. They worry about swine flu, all kinds of things that they're worried about. Maybe you can work with human, with animal health for the benefit of the humans. Medical doctors, there are different kinds. Medical doctors, they work with the eyes, work with bones, pain, hormones, disorders of the immune system, cancer. So there's just a host of different medical fields that you could go into too. Okay, here's your test. Who works with that? Which one of these doctor fields? Ophthalmologists. Who works with that? Dentists. Who works with that? The radiographs there that we can see the bones. Orthopedics. Who works with that? Cardiology. Yes. And so these are different fields of cardiology. And here you can see a stent. Can you see a place there where the pipe is very thin at the top there? And here you can see where the pipe is opened. And that's a stent that we had there. That's a stent. I have a stent in my heart. Thank goodness for the medical field to be able to understand, first of all, what a heart is composed of with the vessels and all from looking at dead individuals, and then how to manipulate it. They came in from my leg, in through an artery, and got into the heart, sitting in through there, went through the vessels in the heart, and they put in a little piece of wire mesh that opened it up. So government, why do you think we have scientists in the government? Well, not just to have fun. I hope they have some fun. But look at this. Outer space. You didn't do that by just walking out there. That was a lot of experimentation before that happened. Scientists are curious. They're observant. They observe things. Jenner observed the cowpox and the smallpox relationship in the milkmaids. They're creative. They ask questions. When I was a kid, my parents said I asked too many questions. You can't ask too many questions, can you? You can't. They conduct experiments. Female or male college graduates, you really need to graduate from college to be a scientist. You don't have to, but it helps out. You could be a public service. It could be you. Could be a scientist. Teaching is another field, science-related, very important field for to be educated. You're getting that right now from your teachers about different opportunities that you can go into if you wanted to go into science. A good education of scientific discoveries helps you to stay healthy. It helps you to set up experiments. It helps you to have good hygiene. All these things are beneficial to you. So careers in science, they get to travel. I'll talk about that in a second. Also to discover, they plan their own experiments, as I mentioned to you. You can work in industry, government, medicine, university. Also, you can be a teacher. You can be a lot of different things, a satisfactory thing you're working for the public. And here we see some travels that I've had. In the upper left side, you see the Tetons. This is in Wyoming, in the United States. Over on the right side, right beside me there, you see, that's Mount Rushmore. There's presidents up there. As you can see, there's a sculpture of their presidents. And down below, we see Washington, D.C., Hawaii. I went to Hawaii. I had to stay there 10 whole days. It was tough. I took my mom to Hawaii with me. She'd never been to Hawaii. Her twin brother was at Pearl Harbor when it was bombed. I took her to Pearl Harbor. Also, there's in Japan, Mount Fuji in the middle, Holland, and then over there we see Waterford Crystal. That is in Ireland. Of course, you see the Eiffel Tower, which is in France, And then the bottom in the middle, we see Rio de Janeiro, where they had the Olympics to occur. And then this is Stockholm, Sweden, is what we see at the lower right-hand side. And that's where every scientist want to go. Where do they all want to go besides heaven? They want to go to Stockholm, Sweden, because that's where they get the Nobel Prize. And so in this city hall is where they get the Nobel Prize. In the middle of that hall is a big room. And that room is where they get the Nobel Prize. The one beside it is laced in gold all around there. They go dance in the gold room after they get the Nobel Prize. I've danced in the gold room. You can too. I didn't get a Nobel Prize, but you can believe I danced in that room. That's what I did. Oh, here we see the Great Wall of Texas. No, the Great Wall of China that you can see. A lot of people died building that, didn't they? And then we can see there's Stanford, and there's Golden Gate Bridge, San Francisco, and then we can see two of my students in Washington, D.C. One time I took Flat Stanley with me. He traveled with me. He had his seat on the plane. He was boning up on his anatomy, and he was in the subway with me, and he even got in the cockpit of the plane. You know how hard it is to get in the cockpit of the plane these days? But Flat Stanley was right there. Whoa, he went to the Museum of Natural History with me, and I had to capture him out of a rhino, or is that a hippo? Which one is that? Hippo, right? And so today we talked about the usage of science, how you define science, scientia, meaning knowledge or know. We talked about the different careers of science. There's a host of different careers. We didn't even get them all. We just wanted to illustrate that there's a bunch of them there that you could do the various things that you want to do, whether you want to work with insects or people or medicine or plants, snakes, scorpions, whatever you want to work with. There's opportunity for you to do that in science, and we ended up with some travel. So we just want to ask with questions and just to point out to the fact that either contribute to science now or you may later. You might recognize this as Arlington Cemetery right outside of Washington, D.C. So that concludes the presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any. Tori?
All right, yes, we have a question from Fossum Middle School, and they'd like to know, do you know if there are scientists currently working on artificial body parts such as lungs or kidneys?
Yes, there are scientists. I don't know any, but there are scientists that are working on these artificial body parts. Some here at Texas A&M have been working on some for the cardiac assist. So you would put a little pump inside the heart itself, and it would supplement the amount of pumping that will go on. And of course, there are those trying to work on artificial limbs, and a lot of progress has been made in those, but that's really not my field. I don't know exactly all the details that are there, but they are trying to do that. And of course, with people with kidney problem, we are trying to come up with better ways to clean the blood in there. You know, people go through dialysis and all, and they have to hook up the machine to them. So you have kind of like an artificial kidney outside the individual. But yeah, they are working on all those things, and it's opportunity for you to do that as well.
Right. We have another question here, and they said, why did you choose veterinary science? And you work at the College of Veterinary Medicine, but I know you also work at the medical school as well. And so why did you choose the field you're in?
Okay, I chose the field I'm in because I love animals. And I was raised on a farm, and I had animals all my life. I still have 2 horses and 2 dogs right now. And so I've always liked to work with the animals, and so the veterinary medicine works with animals. Even human health is through the working with the animals themselves. But I've always wanted to work in the ultimate animal, which would be the human. And so that's why I teach histology in the veterinary school as well as the medical school and as an undergraduate program. So a lot of these in animals and humans are the same, and so we're able to use the various ones. I just love animals. I love interacting with them. I love their behavior, and I love interacting with them as well as looking at them develop or looking at how experiment would improve their well-being.
Right. Well, thank you, Dr. Johnson. That concludes our program for today. If you'd like to learn more about science, veterinary science, agricultural science, you can check out our website. It's peer.tamu.edu. We also have a YouTube channel, Peer at Texas A&M, where you'll be able to find this presentation as well as many others that we've done. So thanks again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next week as we continue our STEM education series. Have a great day.